What's good, y'all? We gonna get right to it. We ain't even gonna waste no time. Jump right to it, man. Candace Owens is right again. I know I hate when she right? But then again, I love when she right because it's the truth. Yeah, let's get to it.
So if you were on
Okay. I don't think y'all can hear the audio, right? Let me get this right quick. Let me go and get this thing right. Switch this shit up. There we go. All right, we should be in the building now. Now we should be good. Let me fix this up for y'all. Let's go.
a lot of people being very upset that FTX, which in case you're not aware, it is a crypto exchange platform, is going bankrupt. And they're not, by the way, just upset that it's going bankrupt, but it also seems a bit scandalous. In fact, it turns out that the CEO may have been taking money from FTX under the guise of helping the war effort in Ukraine and then laundering that money back to Democrats to the tune of $50 million. So people have been understandably outraged. In fact, one tweet from a friend of ours, Benny Johnson, he wrote this. He wrote, FTX was a money laundering scam from Democrats. $50 million spent on electing Dems this cycle. Will a single Democrat return the blood money given to their campaigns through theft of regular Americans' savings? This should be the biggest scandal in the world right now. And I think Elon Musk replied to that thread and said, no one's going to get in trouble because it's Democrats. And he's right. And Benny Johnson is right. I think for me, I was.
Hold on, let me pause that right quick because I need y'all to catch that. You did? This shit ain't just about like no crypto shit. Not just this beginning piece because this is the only piece that's on that in this video. But understand that and understand this. They're taking money from us supposedly to send to Ukraine, which if that ain't bad enough, they capping and refunneling this shit back to your favorite Democrats y'all went and voted for. Like, this shit is crazy, man. At some point, man, like it gotta be like a whole list of things that we need to vote on, like as far as our tax dollars go to. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want my shit going to nothing outside the country. You fucking kidding me? But let me let her continue on.
A little confused as to why anybody would think that this would be the biggest scandal. Why would this be the biggest scandal? Pretending to give money to a war and then actually laundering it back to politicians. I mean, hasn't that been going on forever? Am I the only person that realizes it's been going on forever? In fact, I had somebody mean tweet me, why isn't Candace even talking about this? As if there was some conspiracy of why I haven't been talking. I have been talking about this nonstop since I've had a platform. I keep talking about the fact that your government, our government, is never, ever, ever going to allow there to be a period of peace, because a period of peace would mean that they can't launder trillions of dollars away from the American taxpayer back to themselves. So people are upset about $50 million. Well, to date, we have given $54 billion, $54 billion of American taxpayer money to support the war effort in Ukraine. Now, why should you be outraged by that? Well, because apparently we're not fighting that war. And yet we've already spent more than we spent the entire time that we were in Afghanistan. And we don't know what that money is going toward.
So peep that. Technically, we not even fighting a war in Ukraine, right? They don't want no U.S. soldiers out there or whatever. But they sent 54 billion over there. So they say they took 54 billion from us, sent it over there supposedly, but they funneling that motherfucker back into their pockets and doing what the fuck. Yo, This shit crazy.
No idea. While we have all of these politicians on stage saying, we must win. We must support Zelensky in his efforts. We mustn't talk bad about Zelensky. We have no idea why one day it was BLM flags and the next day they dropped it and everybody put up a Ukraine flag. But you can bet your money, literally, you can bet your money that if the mainstream media is in lockstep on a narrative, it means that you are about to be stolen from. And so I started thinking about that. How many times, just I guess really in my recent memory, not even going back too far, have we all been told that we need to come together to fight something, only to have money taken from us and to not have us win the war that we're allegedly fighting to win? And then they look us in the face and move on to the next one. Here's just one example. What about the war on terrorism? Where are all my 9/11, grew up during 9/11 people like me? We were all told we had to be so scared and terrorism, and we have to fight all of these efforts in the Middle East. We need to, here's my favorite one. Ready? Spread democracy. I wish I could have a CIA dictionary every time our CIA tells us that we're spreading democracy. It usually just means that we're bombing poorer countries and we're bombing them into oblivion. We don't really know why we're doing that, but we can bet our money that we're not going to win in those areas because it turns out they don't want our version of quote unquote spreading democracy. So yeah, the war on terrorism, America spent $6.4 trillion on wars in the Middle East and Asia since 2001. I will again ask the question, which one of those wars did we win?
The point that she might be missing, which she's going to get into after this, she's going to bring up something about opioids. But if you know where these opioids are originally manufactured and where they come from, you know, Middle East, Asia. You know what I mean? Like, I ain't got to say too much. Those that know, y'all know what I'm saying. You put 2 and 2 together. You know what I mean? I'm going to let her continue on.
Iraq? No. Afghanistan? No. Get out of there. Quick. Hand it back to the Taliban. So what are we doing? Oh, I know what we're doing. We're laundering money back to United States politicians. That's exactly what's happening. And I think it's time for us to go ahead and admit that. And it's worse than that. It's not just laundering money. We're willing to kill American citizens.
Looking for royalty-free music? Discover
citizens to do that, right? We have military deaths that are taking place every day. In fact, on the war on terrorism, we lost over 7,000 United States service members and over 8,000 contractors. They died post 9/11 in all of those wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, and everywhere else. Over 30,177 United States service members and veterans of the post 9/11 wars have also died via suicide. Think about that. And for what? The question is for what? Or better yet, for whom? It's not the only war that our government has come to us and said that we must fight. Of course, early on, it was the war on drugs. Remember, we have to fight the war on drugs. People are drug addicts. So we need to spend money to stop drug addiction. That's been going on since 1971. And in case you want to know how much we've spent, we have spent over $1 trillion enforcing drug policy, according to the research from the University of Pennsylvania. And what has been the result of that? You're looking around, do people seem like they're doing less drugs to you? Are you looking around at this America that we live in? Have you been to Los Angeles? Have you been to San Francisco? People are doing this openly in the streets. In fact, in 2020, 91,799 people died in overdose deaths. So how's that for the war on drugs? Beyond that, 6,000, and this is actually more important, you should know this, when the war began, right? Just 6,771 people were dying of overdose deaths. Think about how much bigger that's getting. And of course, we know that's increasing every single year because of the opioid crisis. Yeah, we're fighting drugs, but also our government is in lockstep with the drug manufacturers to get people on drugs that they deem acceptable, right? Everyone nowadays is doing some sort of a drug. They're putting kids on Adderall. They're becoming addicted to Adderall. They're putting kids on opioids and then being, oh my God, we have an opioid epidemic. Maybe we need to launder even more money away from the taxpayer. to fight this never-ending war. And it's never ending because we don't want it to end. Just like the war on COVID. Who could forget? I think it's still going on, actually, the war on COVID somehow, which is just somehow via stimulus package, they got to take $5 trillion away from us, away from our kids and our grandkids, because we're fighting the invisible war on COVID. Stay at home, save lives. You don't go to work. Don't worry. Your government got you, baby. It got you to the tune of $5 trillion. And where is the outrage? Nope. People just get right in line. We just keep jumping from one idiot narrative to the next, really believing that this time our government must really mean it. They're going to rescue us from COVID. No, of course, no. They just one day decide it's over because we've already agreed to giving them trillions of dollars. And so now you can go back outside and you can go to work and you better have no questions because there's no refunds when it comes to the government. You know who knows that really well? Black America. Black America knows that because, of course, the war on poverty, it was all about us.
That's why I got to stop her right there, too. Hold up. Because she just glossed over the fact that the war on drugs was about us, too. Not just the war on poverty. I get it. She liked to talk about and love to say how black people live in poverty, motherfuckers is broke, poor, all that. It's cool. Heard you. We know what she do. But the war on drugs specifically targeted us. And a chick like her should know that because she's from Stanford, Greenwich, Connecticut area, where it's like predominantly like rich white folks. They don't even come through where the fuck we from. They don't even pass through our shit at all. You hear me? Again, I go back to her lawsuit. She sued because the governor's son and his boys did some racist shit to her. So you was hanging around the governor's son and his boys. So I know you know that the motherfuckers is doing and selling drugs and they never, ever pay the consequences for that. Only black and brown people in Connecticut. So let's not do that. Let's not just act like just the war on poverty was, oh, the black community know that one. Shut the fuck up, man. You forgot the first one before you got to this part. But she is going to drop some shit, though. So check this out. She did go in.
War on poverty since 1964, same year that we passed the Civil Rights Act. The government said, oh, all these people that are impoverished, we've got to help these people get richer. Look at you, Black America. And so welfare policies went into place, right? Wonder how much we've spent on that war on poverty? Ready? $22 trillion since 1964 on anti-poverty programs which encourage people to remain impoverished. That's what it does. And here's an update. Ready? Black Americans are poorer today than they were when it began.
Look at the smile on her face when she say that, though. You see the smile on her face? Something in this woman really tickles her fancy about black people being poor and in poverty. That shit is weird. But I digress. We're going to close it out with this.
So much for winning the war. But it doesn't matter because the real thing is it's supposed to make us feel good, right? I feel, even though Black Americans are poor, I feel good for saying that we have been fighting the war, even though we have no idea what the hell we are doing in Ukraine or why Zelensky is so clearly acting the part of a person in a war-torn Ukraine. But it makes us feel good. I feel good when I put the little Ukrainian flag in the corner on my profile right next to my pronoun. It makes me feel good. I feel good when I say that we're fighting terrorism, even though we just keep bombing people into oblivion and we don't really know what's happening to all of that. And so that's what I want you guys to know. I want you to know that you should feel good, even though the FTX may be wiped away.
Created within auto elements.
away $50 million from people's savings, money that people didn't have because we were just fighting that feel-good war, the invisible enemy of COVID. I want you to know that you should feel good because at least you thought you were giving to some people in Ukraine. And that's really all I have to say about that. All right.
Like the video, subscribe to the channel. That way you get your notifications and you don't get caught slipping.